Recording in progress. What's up, everybody? D here. I had another session with JR. So he goes by JRM2024SS, Super Soldier. I think we did about 5 to 6 hours. It was kind of wild. So it got broken down here. Like I said in the last video that we did, JR has gone ahead and edited these himself. I'm just going to watch them through, maybe add a little intro as I see fit and get these up. I want to do some live premieres, so you're likely seeing this in a live premiere. It's just kind of fun, you know, and then people that don't get the lives, they can watch them later once it's posted. But this one, the very first one, is interesting because we go into a lot of topics and we go through some of the websites that JR used to come to some of his conclusions and the various similarities there to the Q post and the various characters that he believes were involved. So it was funny because when we were recording, because we recorded a lot of the last session too, but we didn't use a lot of it. We made one part of it just for a recorded session. This time it was recording, so I just thought it was the same as last time. And then I was just like, all right, is this what you want to do? And it's like, no, we're recording now, man. I'm like, what? We're recording, right? Like, this is for like the public? And he's like, yeah, man. And I'm like, dude, all right. So it's like funny how it happens because it's just like, you're going to jump into another hosing of just truth, like right into your face and brain from JRM once again, getting into some more of this Q stuff, and then it parlays into other areas just because stuff comes to my mind when he brings something up, and I'm like, oh, I got to talk about this. We bring up the reptilians, Looking Glass, and all this kind of stuff that kind of comes out of this one. And so there's going to be 4 parts to this series. This will kick it off, the longest one. And like I said, I didn't realize what we were recording for what was going to be shared in the public. I thought we were lining things up. And so we're going to jump right into this one. I love you all. And I'll see you in the live chat. And then I'll see you down in the comments afterwards. Love you all and enjoy the show. The reason I got doxxed is because I was fighting for Mike.
Yeah, there's so much gossip that goes on around these movements. Whenever there's a large movement, like I explained about the Indian movement, right? About those actors getting killed and the mafia getting involved in Bollywood, and that's the largest online movement going on right now.
The Bollywood
And
thing.
yeah, there's an actor who got killed. So I stood up for him, and I also joined, because at that time COVID, the Vitco 91 part had just started, February to May, June of 2020,
Yeah.
and this actor got killed on the 14th of 2020, allegedly. So the government and the police immediately declared it a suicide. So the people jumped on and they started a movement. So all that, cutting short of that detail, eventually it so happened that my mentors, who are in their 80s or 70s, all of them are national award winners and big, civilian award winners and stuff. They personally told me, be careful and you don't get involved and don't become a crusader in justice seekers and all those things, because you're too well known in your own field, and we are also well known to you, and we are all in the picture, and the prime minister's office also keeps an eye on you. So that became a kind of a big red flag for me, and my family also said, no, don't do it. So I had to take down about 900 of my videos from YouTube.
Wow, 900?
Yeah, all of them. This is exactly why I don't go back and become visible. And most of them were my music, my music lessons, screenwriting, filmmaking stuff, and it was absolutely normal things. But then, because of visibility, I thought, okay, this is becoming a too much of a burden on me, so I just moved away. Right. So that's the only explanation I can give for people who don't understand. I can go on video back and do the same thing over and over. It doesn't, hurt me in any way, but it hurts others. I'm in a contract with people or with NDAs with some of the independent producers and directors and music composers. I've named some of them, with you before. So it becomes a point of embarrassment more than anything when you get involved with some conspiratorial stuff like Alex Jones and others. For example, there was a producer from Hollywood, big producer from Canada, actually, and he lived here also. We were working on some projects, or I was trying to get him some funding from Dubai, and because I have some contacts through my old broadcasting corporation network, right? So this guy tells me one of your friends goes to Alex Jones shows, and he started to talk about the Eyes Wide Shut parties, and that he got invitation for those parties as well. So about the Eyes Wide Shut orgy parties and all those nonsense, right? So he's saying that he will never be able to work in Hollywood again. I said, I don't care. How do I care what you are telling me, right? This is gossip. So if he has gone and said he's responsible, he's an adult, and he could always go and take responsibility for what he's saying. Probably he got invited. That's why he's saying it. There are others. I know there's a guy who is a mason and a real estate agent, and he also said, I have been to such parties. I said, okay, I don't want to go, but if you have been, it's your choice. So this is where the gossip becomes such a overbearing stuff for people like us. We are decent family people, right? We don't want to get involved or embroiled in all that nastiness of even jazz musicians. They are often told you are supposed to do heroin, otherwise you're not a good jazz musician. So what rubbish is that, right? Sometimes that's the line where people don't understand, where we don't cross. But anyway, coming back to the bullet points, inquirysystems.weebly.com. That's number one, right?
Yep.
Then second person you have to note down is Norio Hayakawa. Norio as Norio Hayakawa.
All right. Norio.
Yeah. Hayakawa. So he has a blog site called Civilian Intelligence.
Do you want me to have that pulled up?
Yeah, you can keep another tab ready for that one. And then
it's do I put in the name and then the
Yeah, it will pull up. If you Google search and say Civilian Intelligence or Norio Hayakawa, you will get that link. And under his name, you could also write down another very important name, Mike Younger.
Mike Younger, like it sounds.
Yeah. So why? Because if you see those, the rattlesnake Gaveston flag, don't tread over me flag thing.
Yeah.
So that flag was on the back of the stage behind Mike Younger and Norio Hayakawa at a lecture in 1992 or 93 in Cerritos or someplace here in Arcadia in Orange County. And these people at that time ran a similar movement like Q. They were doing all the expose stuff. And later, it turned out.
Is this it?
Right. So this is a very important web page. So if you come up to the July, on the right side, you see the recent comments. And if you can scroll down from there, you see those dates there, archives. So go to the point where it's around October 2017. Remember when Q actually started? Okay. So if you see, go down, scroll down a little. Let's see if we are on the right page. So this guy is the Japanese guy. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Go back to the right-hand side. Okay. Keep going. No. Maybe it's on the same page. So he lives in New Mexico. He's in Albuquerque.
All right. So this would be October 24th, 2017. This would be 4 days before the post of Q.
Correct. So, and this guy
this would be right after.
Somehow connected to not just Michael Riconosciuto, but also with others from that Mike Younger group. Okay. And Robert Booth Nichols, Mike Younger, Philip Booth Nichols, all those names I gave you the other day, right?
Yep.
In our precursor. And there is one particular, okay, in the search bar, if you type in his page, Michael Riconosciuto. RICONOSCIUTO. Yeah. Now, hold on. Before you go, so you see that the first title that comes up, behind February 2016, right?
Yep.
So in many of the Q posts on 4chan, not on 8chan, okay? Until the infiltration happened, Q used, whoever was the Q poster, according to me, it was him, MJR. He used to allude to the fact that I have technology or control over satellite technology that can crash helicopters, jet planes, or missiles, and all those things. So he had a superior understanding of intelligence network, and as I explained the other day with the Q card, the algorithmic encrypted key cards, right? Or card keys.
Right.
And here you see what all they are talking about. September 17th, number one, okay? Always the word 17. 2010 by Norio Hayakawa, The Octopus, The Insla Scandal, Black Projects, Vakenhut Corporation, and COM12. That COM12 is the similar group which later morphed into this under 10 members of Q, right? They always say that less than 10 people can confirm me. That's what Q's post is. So the secret group COM12 in 1992, was it a fact or a fiction or disinformation? Click on that. Does it pull up?
This is a slow loading web page, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll also close some of my
WordPress is like that sometimes. Yeah. Here we go.
Sometimes, yeah. So if you slowly scroll down here, so what he says about Mike Younger, who in the early 90s created controversy among some conspiracy circles in Southern California by claiming to be a representative of a group then known as COM12, died on December 31st, 2001 of a massive heart failure in Anaheim, California. Okay, so pause there for a second. Mike Younger, Mike Younger's wife later said he was some kind of a cuckoo who believed in all these kind of nonsense, that he had some military clearance and stuff. He was just a normie. He was just a broker or commission agent or something. And he was arrested by the local sheriff's department or something. And then he vanished from the scene or something like that. is the second part or latter part of his family saying that. And when I checked into his background a little more, it didn't seem like he was a SEAL or anything. Okay. Then I got him checked from others, like the same people who checked with this Brooke Bader or Bill Wood, that was his name. He claimed to be honorably discharged or dishonorably discharged because he himself confessed to a crime on Carrie Cassidy's Camelot films interview. I was the first guy who introduced the subject of looking glass into this whole conspiracy. The time travel looking glass nonsense, okay? So read on further, if you can read it.
Yeah, it goes into Majestic 12. I don't know where you want me to start, but he claimed to be the liaison officer for COM 12, an alleged group of intelligence personnel opposed to the policies and direction of alleged Aquarius faction within the intelligence community at the time. COM 12, he insinuated, was in direct confrontation with the so-called MJ, Magic, or the Majestic Operations faction.
Right.
Crazy.
And then?
Connected to part of the Navy SEAL Team 6, reportedly contracted an illness and disappeared from the public. His whereabouts since then became unknown to most researchers until the time of his death.
Okay. Then, private funeral. Go ahead from there. According to an attendee.
According to an, are we going to use this for the recording? Yeah, we can do so. We can do it.
Okay, let me first give you the bullet points.
I didn't even get a chance to talk to JRM about some things that I kind of wanted to just address. So I don't want to do that in the middle of it.
Right. Let's go back to just the bullet point first. Okay.
Okay.
So inquirysystems.weebly.com, Norio Hayakawa. That's why I did.
Oh, what you shared is what you want the public to know. Okay, I didn't know if that was a little bit more.
That's why I mentioned about the Indian actors thing and stuff.
All right. Well, I don't know how I look or sound for the recording aspect of this, but
under him would be Mike Younger and Michael Riconosciuto, COM 12, civilian intelligence. Okay, this is for people to research, and if you see, there's one particular paragraph here which says Younger was also the source of the so-called Blue Fire memorandum, purportedly an official-looking memorandum allegedly issued to the security personnel of Nellis Range concerning a public event which was held in Rachel, Nevada, near Area 51 in 1991. And here's the PDF of all that is there. And it always comes back to this guy. If you see, Michael J. Riconosciuto. And according to one source, Younger was a friend of Michael Riconosciuto, a fuel air explosives expert, and a key figure and witness in the so-called Inslaw scandal. And then it goes to Danny Castelaro's death and all that, right? But this is bullet point number 1. And number 2 was Norio Hayakawa, which we finished. Bullet point number 3 will be fly, Roth, fly.
Fly, Rod, fly.
So this was about the entire Q board people in the Q team, or if there was a Q team first. And then the followers of Q who were trolling Evelyn Rothschild's wife, what was the name? Lynn Rothschild. Because there was a plane crash right over the Waddesdon Manor, and some old man was walking on the lawns of the manor that day or that night, and seemingly or allegedly that old man died after 2 jets collided in midair right over the Waddesdon Manor. This was in 2017 or 2017. So everybody started complimenting and commending Q for having killed Jacob Rothschild. And then later it turns out Jacob Rothschild is healthy and fine. None of that happened, right? So this was the post of a Captain Green on the Q board. And fly, Roth, fly was one of the codes. And then they also said that Evergreen is Hillary Clinton's Secret Service code.
Right.
This is another bullet point. As you know, Dan Bongino was a Secret Service agent.
Right.
And he was a bigger pushing person for the factor that Admiral Rogers was the first person to go and talk to President-elect Trump at the Trump Tower after finding out about Obama Gate or Spygate and all this nonsense.
Right.
So that's
you think
where
it's nonsense? You think that he wasn't spying on the campaign, or
I'm saying nonsense from Dan Bongino's point of view, is because if you are even the U.S. Secret Service agent, you wouldn't be inside the skiff room, and such talks happen only in a skiff.
You would be at least outside the room, guarding the room, right?
Right. So he cannot have access. If he had access to the skiff, he can never talk about it outside. That's felony. And then he was not even active at that time.
Right.
So even if he had his clearance, maybe he had his clearance, right? He couldn't know what admiral, not some ordinary Navy guy. He's the admiral. And he's going and talking to President-elect Trump directly. I don't think even Trump's wife would know that part. Nobody would be there in that room except Devin Nunes, because he was the chairman of the Select Judiciary Committee or Intelligence Committee at that time. So Devin Nunes could have been present. And because of Devin Nunes, Kash Patel could have known because he was his chief of staff. But again, none of them could come out and talk about it because such conversation would have happened in a skiff. This is all I wanted to convey. Okay? Then comes Michael Quincy. Ever heard of this guy?
I don't think so. I mean,
Quincy with a Q, but not like Quincy Jones of the Michael Jackson weekend fame. This Michael Quincy is a light worker, spiritual guy.
Light worker, okay, like just a self-professed online like guru.
Correct. And they have a cult about the Pleiadians. So if you know one handle on Twitter, Kabamur Teagata, the people who believe that people like Obama and Trump were taken away to Mars or the Air Force One was surrounded by UFOs and blah, blah, blah. And Ramtha came along there. So Ramtha is the next person. This Michael Quincy's group, first they posted blog site articles because nobody has ever seen or heard Michael Quincy in an audio recording, just like we are talking right now, right? Michael Quincy is a nom de guerre person, but Q stands for Quincy, okay? This is the idea that they brought along to the Q board. Because
this cult believes or tries to say that Q was Quincy?
Quincy, because they wanted to include all the space-related things, particularly the Pleiadians and the UFOs, Kabamur Teagata guy, and also that Trump is a chosen one from their side. And when the missile crisis happened with the DEFCON 1 post and everything on Q post, there were two things that people had to remember. One was Dave Chappelle did a stand-up comedy on SNL, and he talked about Kanye West posted DEFCON 3, and he went to sleep after that. So even those people were making fun of these things, as if DEFCON 1 was that easy a thing to happen, right? And Michael Quincy's website or email address took me to a television company, I think, in England or in UK, Skynet.uk. And their entire graphics or computer generated, GUI and all those things were full of lizards. And
like reptilians, like the reptilians?
Reptilians, yeah. So the David Wilcock, Zeta Reticuli, all those things were included in that. Okay? So how that connects to the Space Force nonsense or the Space Force cult, which I shared with you the other day with the QP Science, Q.P Science radio network, on which Jordan Sather went for an interview. Then comes the Ramtha cult, and then comes the Hatan cult. Hatan is...
how do you spell that?
Is a channeler, Hatonn. And the person who claims to be Hatan, a cult figure, is Giorgio Ceres Hatan. Ceres is spelled Ceres, Giorgio. And the book that they, publish or they send to everybody is called the Phoenix Journals. So you will see a number of posts on Q board about the phoenix rising from the ashes.
All right.
And it also goes and connects all the way to Austin Steinbart, Lord Stephen Christ, Concave Earth, that group. There's a lady with a blue hoodie who found out that the person posting as Q on the Q board actually contacted Lord Stephen Christ, Concave Earth guy. He's another guy who believes that we live inside a concave Earth. Okay. And this guy posted on Twitter that I believe in concave Earth theory other than the flat Earth theory. So Elon Musk responded to that and he said, I like this idea or something like that. So they made it a big deal about it that Elon has endorsed the fact that we could be living in a concave Earth. And this guy had his own cult that he used to, create his cult followers. And they had to take his tattoo on their chest. So he created his own symbol, like a mark of the beast kind of thing.
And his followers had to get a tattoo on the chest?
Yeah. And there were people who used to do it, go and meet with him. And first time he got into jail because he threatened President Obama at that time, that I'm going to kill you. Second time he threatened Trump. So some kind of cuckoo business there. But one thing I will give it to that guy. He plays guitar, insanely brilliant guitar. I'm a musician, so I can say he plays brilliant guitar. No doubt about that part. How these two things work on a parallel level, I have no idea how his brain functions. So he posted on the Q board about the demiurge. I don't know what the word demiurge actually means.
I've heard of it too. I think it's something evil, right?
Right. So, and he also says that I am the Christ, which is actually blasphemy, according to me, right? And I'm the return of the Christ. And Lord Stephen Christ, Concave Earth is his handle. Allegedly, he's gone now. I don't know whether he's dead or he's arrested and put back in a jail or something. So this demiurge post actually was about why Sessions got fired by Trump. And at that time, he was alluding to the fact that Austin Steinbart is the baby Q and the father Q is himself, which is LSCE.
I never even heard of this guy. That's crazy. So anyways, just to confront the demiurge thing, it's said to be a divine entity in philosophy that creates and maintains the physical world. Well, from my faith or whatnot in the Bible and Jesus Christ, like that's a demon. That's a demon.
So he goes to the point where he says that Saturnalia or Saturn, right? So that's where the word Satan comes from. It is his claim, and he says that his mother's name was also something similar to the biblical character of the demiurge, and that demiurge's mother, they were both named Sakuta, and it's Italian. So he had very elaborate videos going on, and he was challenging Trump, and he was saying, if you don't believe in Q, right, so then you don't believe in God. And I am the God who has returned, and blah, blah, blah. So
and this is George Saris Hatton.
No, some of those group people believed in this guy, which is Lord Stephen Christ, Concave Earth. So the typical, keyword is concave Earth. And there was a blue hoodie girl or a lady who accidentally found this guy. This always comes with such fantastic stories, right?
Sure.
That I was just looking up Q, what was going on the Q board, and this guy comes up and he says that baby Q actually talked with me. So he had a conversation with Q, which is Austin Steinbart, according to him. And that's how Austin Steinbart got his legitimacy, because there was a Q post about Austin Steinbart on Q board that remember this name, remember this person, with a picture of Austin Steinbart. So this is all. Yeah, this is all after the corruption happened in 2018 with Corsi. Everybody started posting and claiming this is the person who is the Q guy, right? Yeah. Then this QAnon shaman guy came along. So outside the courthouse in Arizona, in Chandler or someplace, or Mesa or whatever that city is, Austin Steinbart walks out of the courtroom. He has been completely ostracized. He cannot touch a computer. He cannot get on the internet. He was under house arrest and wearing an ankle monitor. All those things was going on. Suddenly, this guy, QAnon shaman comes up there. And, oh, you are Austin Steinbart, right? I believe you. And as if they were not known to each other before. So all this game was going on. Anyway, so
that was the shaman guy you're talking about. Gosh, what's his name?
Yeah, Jake Angeli.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, he was at the Capitol wearing the horns and like the outfit and all that bullcrap.
This is way before January 6th. This happened.
Yep.
So he was with the flag and all those things. Yeah. Okay. So they set up all these things, and then Austin Steinbart, did the bad thing of getting into somebody's medical records online.
Yeah.
Trying to prove that he could get into any government data or any government facility because he was an NSA contractor. And he had a beef with some company called Datto. And he created the whole keyboard intelligence drops and other things into a drive called Amorphous drive or Amorphous drive.
Mm-hmm.
And Austin was claiming to people that once all these things come into the court, I can present the whole evidence, then they cannot refute it. And that's why they will never keep me in jail forever, because they cannot accept the evidence, because the evidence has to be brought into the court. This is the whole play that the keyboard people were doing because Trump did not win in 2020. Remember? So next part comes is qmap.pub. Who created that? So that was an ID called quantum packets. So the ID was QMTMPKTS, quantum packets. And this guy was a real guy. He made the qmap.pub website or web blog site. All the Q drops used to get collected and they were all mapped into the QMap. At the same time, there was a long-haired boy, younger guy, who created the Q clock. So this long-haired boy or a young man recently interviewed 107.
What's his name?
Have you seen that video?
You're talking recently?
Yeah, very recently, last year or 2 years ago, 22 or 23.
Long hair. You don't know his name?
I'll find out. I'll tell you later. But anyway, so coming back to this qmap.pub, these people used to use an app called keybase.app. Okay. Just like you have on your Mac computers keychain access app, they had an app called keybase.app. And the leader of that group, who were all posting for Q, was this guy, Quantum Packets. Parallelly, Jordan Sather, Praying Medic, and others, Lisa Mae Crowley and others, they were all believing that there was a guy named David Browers who was their Q.
He was their Q.
Yeah.
So all these people had their own freaking ideas.
Their own freaking, one individual was posting as Q, and they were very confirmed. They had their own ways of finding out how they were saying. But Praying Medic actually was posting from the link. Which I have given on one of the screenshots in the Google Drive pictures or screenshots we have, where I said this is where they copied the Q links or Q military codes. It's immediately after the T cells post. So they have that link, that particular link. We will revisit that in the end of the video, which one I'm talking about. Okay.
All right.
So final few things was when I got into this keybase.app, I also downloaded that, which was risky because all these people are very good in hacking and things. But I was just being a quiet observer. Now, you remember the Merlin post that I induced or I incited them, and Defango even went and created a Merlin Defango ID because his YouTube got taken down. So he was logged into that keybase as Merlin Defango, and their leader was Quantum Packets. Then there was another guy named Microchip, which was Jack Posobiec's guy. So Jack Posobiec did a very elaborate interview on OANN, and he said then he went on and posted on Twitter, "Prove me wrong, prove me if I'm not Q."
Jack Posobiec was saying that.
Yeah, and then somebody went after him really big, and took out all the information about him, that he was just a urine analysis person at Gitmo or someplace. He was never naval intelligence officer or something as he claimed. Lots of people will claim many things that they are, but they are not, right?
Sure.
Then these are our bullet points. Now we can talk about what you want to talk. So let's go back to the main block site if you want to start there, of the Patrick O'Shea guy, the civilian
inquiry systems.
Inquiry system.
Okay.
So after I found out the connection from Norio Hayakawa and Mike Younger, I got this block site. So welcome to the official site of private investigator Patrick M. O'Shea. This site is dedicated to the memory of former FBI chief Gunderson and the McKay team. I talked about the McKay team with you last time, who were the real experts of Mideast terrorism. I might add, Danny Castelaro, who was writing a book on the shadow government and their own covert ops, which he titled the book as The Death of a Poet, and then he converted it to Behold a Pale Horse. And then finally called it Indio, because he was about to travel down to Indio, California to meet with Michael Conosciuto on the reservation, before which he got killed, right? So currently I assist former NSA and CIA asset Michael Conosciuto through the use of FOIAs and other investigations, okay? This block site was not there until 2017.
Okay. And then what you just kind of went over something that I think is going to be huge.
So when you scroll down, I'll tell you where all to pause.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to let me come in here a little bit, because you just talked about how it became Behold a Pale Horse, and most people know Behold a Pale Horse, the work that was done by Bill Cooper. You allege that Bill Cooper got that work from somebody else, which is very controversial, because I still, whether it's cognitive dissonance or whatever, love Bill Cooper. But I've also had a gentleman that goes by juxtaposition come on and say that Bill Cooper was co-Intel Pro. People can make up their own minds.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard, because at that same time, one of my colleagues, I can't give the name, she told me that Bill Cooper was co-Intel. I never heard of the word co-Intel Pro until then. At that time, Cooper was alive, and he was giving interviews on CNN. So that was her red flag. Why would he be on CNN? Elaborate interviews with, I don't know whether it was Wolf Blitzer or Anderson Cooper. I don't know who was the interviewer back then. So she claimed that he was co-Intel Pro, not me. But I believe her because she's a very genuine friend of mine, a life friend. We know each other for a very long time. And she said, no, I don't believe everything that Cooper says. I don't know personally who wrote the Behold the Pale Horse early. I mean, whether Bill wrote it or Castelaro wrote it, but I have seen the manuscripts of Castelaro in his own handwriting, where I'll send a screenshot of that afterwards, where he does mention that there is an Mission Impossible team of 8 people whom I call Octopus. They are so powerful, they can walk into any king's house, any king's palace or monarch's palace, or president or prime minister, and seek anything they want, and nobody can stop them. They were involved in the Haiti, Honduras, and the Dominican Republic area of building a very large weather manipulating weapon like the one we are talking about DWM and Greenland thing in our Telegram chat.
Yeah.
And that particular weapon was used in Haiti to create the earthquake. It's what they say. Scientifically, that's not possible. But who knows? We don't know many things that these governments are doing.
I tend to think some of these things are possible. And there's even been people that have been pushing back on the looking glass stuff. Now, I don't know what to think of that because I've come from very high woo-woo, and now I'm trying to come more back to reality of what's legit and what's not.
That's
it
my
depends
idea.
on who you talk about. And I see a lot of what like a guy that I don't know if you know about Space Force Chuck, guy that actually works for the Space Force.
Okay.
He tends to debunk a lot of this stuff too, and is in line more. Not that you guys are in line. Yeah, so like he doesn't see that as make any sense. However, it could be compartmentalized with this job, and I always like to have fun with him and say that he's being zapped by the Men in Black little zapper thing to take away his memory of things. Mm-hmm. But there's various things. But what I want to say is that people come in here and they make a stink. Not a lot of people. We actually didn't get attacked as much as I thought we would. But so some of this information is kind of like fire hose to people, and some of it, like with Bill Cooper stuff, doesn't mean that we know absolutely, but we're giving you information to have a further discussion. And if you want to like talk about stuff, like if you're on Telegram, you can come into the chat, but like let's not attack each other. We're all searching for truth. And I've found, JR, that people say they want the truth, but they really don't. They want their ideas confirmed to them. They already have ideas about Looking Glass. They already have ideas about some of these characters, and we're willing to at least pose another view because nothing's really worked out like anybody said.
Yeah. Well, there's a pause I'm giving here just as a reminder. I had a conversation with one of my guys. I don't want to say his position and all. He came back with the answer. There is some truth in the technology. I have not personally indulged in it, but I know it exists. That's all he said. So Looking Glass technology exists in the military.
And I would think of it more as like a technology, right? It's like a supercomputer able to take in a lot of factors and therefore semi-predict various things.
Right. So that he mentioned, that particular computer was built by IBM. And it exists in a place called McLean in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
So this much he gave, just like the alien bodies stuff, right? Like from Arizona, whether there were some bodies or from New Mexico, which were, brought in from Roswell. Yes. So he said, only thing I can talk about that because of the classification part is that the world is not ready for it. The human race is not ready to. No, full disclosure will never happen. Because I kept pushing about this Stephen Greer or William Greer, whatever his name is, Dr. Greer. He's Stephen Greer. On and on. And then I went back and did some research.
Yes, I would consider Stephen Greer co-Intel Pro of today. There's a lot of them. There are a lot of them. And a juxtaposition would say anybody that has any kind of standing or a large platform or is going on even alternative media is fully COINTEL Pro. COINTEL Pro just means counterintelligence. They're only going to tell you so much, but they're never going to tell you the full truth.
Brilliant. That's very well said. So moving on with this thing, let's go to this blog site, and can you scroll down a little?
Yep.
So first thing he starts with is this Michael Hastings guy. So many people think that Michael Hastings did not die. He went into the background, and he's been posting things online because he's a journalist. He still had his clearances. He had his contacts of national security. He was doing a story about Petraeus and others, McChrystal and McRaven and Bin Laden.
Yes, and he was. I mean, some of it ties into Flynn, and he was he working for Rolling Stone?
Correct. So he was killed in a bizarre fashion as he was driving his Mercedes-Benz at 90 miles per hour in the streets of San Francisco or Los Angeles somewhere.
Which sounds more like somebody took control of his vehicle.
Right. So that was the first instance where people were saying that it could be remotely done, and his car was made to crash. Similarly, like Paul Walker's car crashed in our area near the Disney University, right?
Exactly. And if you've ever heard, I don't know if you heard of Gray, Gray Area Monarch on X, but I've covered him on my channel. He goes by Gray.
Okay.
He
I'll look him up.
Okay, I was just gonna say they did the same thing to him where they tried to kill him and he survived it. Now he's pretty messed up from it, but he was tied to like various things to what this Michael Hastings went through.
Yeah, so things like that happen. We have to give it, to some people, right? But I don't know if that kind of technology exists or it has been tested upon. I don't know that part. Similarly, I would not say that I have incontrovertible proof that Danny Castellaro, was the prelude to Bill Cooper's work. Bill Cooper and Castellaro may never have met. Just like the lady Cindy K. Courier or somebody, she used to claim that actually Bill Cooper didn't die. He morphed into Jordan Maxwell. Oh my God. This is how this conspiracy world works.
It's crazy because
it's cuckoo. Yeah, completely cuckoo.
They were in the same freaking room, I think.
Right.
Bill Cooper and Maxwell, and they did not agree on things. And Cooper called them out. That's what I loved about Bill Cooper. He just was like a no-nonsense person from what I could tell. So even if he got some stuff for Behold the Pale Horse, there was still so much personal information in Behold the Pale Horse that it might even still be a separate entity.
I do remember that when Bin Laden's story was going on, and Bill Cooper was really the first person who talked about that 9/11 kind of thing can happen.
Yes.
And then they will blame a person in the caves of Tora Bora in Afghanistan. And Alex Jones kind of took the same phraseology and made it his own story.
Yep. And now he takes credit for it. I put out there, and I'm not the first one. I've just got it from other people in the way that I've looked at this. But it seems like they got rid of Bill Cooper, at least whatever happened to him, got rid of him so that Alex Jones could become the face of the truth movement or the conspiracy space, if you will. Not that Bill Cooper was big into conspiracies, but he was calling out a lot of BS.
Correct. And at the same time, I did watch the documentary made by somebody who was a friend of Bill Cooper after his death. And it was very tragic to listen to the whole thing, how the shootout happened in Arizona or someplace, or Colorado, wherever he lived. And he was really, really sad. The friend was really sad that this is what happened to him. He fought until the end. And at that time, internet was still not that great. Broadband had just come in and people were just about, even YouTube had not come at that time. I think, right? 2006 is when YouTube came. But anyway, getting back to this one. So again, this Riconosciuto's scientific genius and Gunderson's representation for the Reagan administration or Bush administration turned the tide in favor of the people of Afghanistan. All that was going on. Okay. So this guy was writing some expose on McCraven, McChrystal, and Petraeus, who were the architects of both the wars, which is Afghanistan and Iraq. And they destroyed those two countries completely based on a lie that 9/11 was their work, when there were clear indications of the other hands of the so-called allies called Israel is for the last, right? So, okay, scroll down some more. Now, this is Riconosciuto sitting with his back to us in a small table. The guy in the white shirt on the second, that fat guy.
Riconosciuto, right?
That's Riconosciuto. And Mike's dad was an OSS veteran back to World War II, who's Marshal Riconosciuto, who was also a close friend of Patrick Moriarty and Richard Nixon.
This is his dad?
I think so. Maybe not him, but maybe the one who's sitting next to Riconosciuto. That guy. Yeah. Probably.
That makes more sense with the age.
Okay. Yeah. And then the Gunderson here at his desk in his FBI office. There's a small anecdote about Gunderson, that he was the deputy director or special agent in charge of 3 specific places: Memphis, Tennessee, Dallas, Texas, and Los Angeles. At the time of all the 3 important assassinations, which is Kennedy Sr., Bobby Kennedy Sr., and Martin Luther King Jr.
Wow.
So that's not a coincidence. So lots of people have thoughts about it, but it's okay. I took a pass about that because I have been in touch with somebody who directly worked with Ted. Some of them say he was a very honorable person, like the author of the last circle. She knew him personally. She used to visit and talk to him until the time he got into the rabbit hole with Michael Riconosciuto. That's what they say. And they even told me to be careful. They said, be careful with this Riconosciuto guy. If you get into his rabbit hole, many people get killed when they get associated with him.
Right.
So, which is, mainly why people should be aware of what they are doing, not take everything at face value or jump blindly into things, right? So, okay, scroll down some more.
Yeah,
So these were all, yeah.
Just say real quick, I've heard that Ted Gunderson was like a puppet for George Bush Sr. Maybe he didn't have a choice. I don't even know if that's true. But then
I'll explain that.
Okay.
When Robert Booth Nichols was running all these operations, allegedly for the NSE, because at that time NSE was just created, or I think it was not that well known, National Security Council. Booth Nichols used to claim himself to be a CIA operative as well, and he used to wear a special ring of skull and bones, and also used to claim that he was a member of the Illuminati. And when I used to live in the Hollywood area, Booth Nichols used to have a house there in Sherman Oaks City. And he also had an apartment in Marina del Rey, unit number 007. So he had a big obsession about being the James Bond on the wrong side of the law. So he was in an arms deal between Khashoggi and others, and he was a partner of Michael Riconosciuto. They had a company called, what was that? One was Hadron Inc., which was Marshall, Riconosciuto, Moriarty, and Michael. The other was called Hercules Powder or something. So they were making bombs, like barometric bombs. So Michael Riconosciuto was the scientific brain behind all that. And he made weapons for Robert Booth Nichols to sell to the Nicaraguan rebels and others. And with that barometric bomb is what Michael Riconosciuto claims that he brought down the Mura building or the Waco, Texas building. And he had a big obsession about that I invented this bomb called FAE, or fuel air explosives, or FAE, like in fairy. So, and Gunderson got involved in all that. So there was a very small video of Gunderson and MJR sitting inside some, building, and they were discussing about how he was instrumental in bringing down the Waco building. It was not Terry Nichols or McKay or David Koresh or whoever those actors were. They were all patsies created by the FBI. That's what their claim. And ever since then, Gunderson's career was completely gone. He got embroiled in that McMartin School story, Franklin cover-up. Of course, the Franklin cover-up was real. I mean, that's where Bush's came into play. So this Robert Booth Nichols had a handler or a connecting person between the White House chief of staff named Howard Baker, this Reagan's chief of staff, or Bush seniors, and there was a guy named Eugene Giaquinto, who was the vice president of MCA, which was Music Corporation of America. They sold that. Robert Booth Nichols engineered the sale of that company to Matsushita Corporation in Japan, and they got about $13 billion of that. Part of that money went to Reagan Library and his ranch in California, and part of it went to Lou Wasserman, to the Gambinos and the Buffalinos. So the Gambinos and the Buffalinos got pissed with Michael Riconosciuto for sending an affidavit in support of Danny Castelaro, in which he claimed that there was a Promise software, which was stolen by the DOJ, Edwin Meese, and there started his incarceration. That's how he was, put in jail. So Gunderson supported Michael Riconosciuto. So he lost all his credibility with the DOJ. his career was over after that, right? So let's
Right.
move on.
But he did put out a lot of good info, it seems, like on 9/11 and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, of course. And then
Unless he's co-Intel Pro as well.
there you go. So keep going.
Yeah, this is where juxtaposition might have a lot to say.
Right.
All right, and let me get this smaller a little bit. And then
Yeah.
terrorist activities furnished to the FBI 6 months in advance of 9/11. Interesting. Do you want to go through this?
Yep.
There is a Marxist insurgency taking place in our country, very sophisticated and deadly. And in order for it to operate, it requires numerous government officials to commit treason. By ignoring it, this same statement has also been made by a retired Army Green Beret, Lieutenant General Boykin, and his organization can be found on the net. His expertise has been knowing what the foundations of Marxism require. I have a former U.S. Army military police background and held secret clearance status back in the late 1970s. If I didn't have my background, I probably wouldn't believe it myself, but the writing is all over the walls, and Washington, D.C. is totally corrupt. I'd agree. Today, I don't believe half of those persons could investigate their way out of a paper sack if it was over their heads. And deception is the name of the game. And what's really scary about all this is that they don't like and they despise whistleblowers. I agree. And the road to perdition has been paved. Our enemies waited us out for the longest time. They were never outside the gate. They were inside all along. And they were probably the ones who hung up on me. You think? You can't have a Patriot Act without 9/11. And Gunderson and I found it was created years before 9/11. How do you like those apples? Do you want to say something here?
No, keep going. Keep going. This is very interesting stuff.
And it also, the whole Q post of infiltration, not invasion. Kind of a thing. That's what this is reminding me of. Anyways, it's creating a police state. Did you know Osama bin Laden and his family built our U.S. military bases in Saudi Arabia and control spy satellites that rival the NSA's? You know that hardcore cash kept a lot of senators and congressmen quiet, didn't it? We are Americans. We are not the terrorists. We are not inside some arcade game. We fall under the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. Read it and understand who you really are.
Okay. This is a cartoon about Obama drone striking al-Waqi or whatever his name was, Anwar al-Waqi in Yemen, and he was an American citizen. So this became a big constitutional crisis for Obama. But they used that commie positas or whatever that is, and habeas corpus, and they suspended the Constitution to do that. So there's lots of bad things that happened under Obama as well. Okay,
they suspended the Constitution to do that?
Yeah, otherwise they couldn't have done that, even if he was in enemy territory called Yemen. Yemen is not actually an enemy territory. This was done on the orders of the king of Saudi Arabia at that time. Okay, so move on. Now you see this owl thing.
Absolutely.
Which features many times over and over in the Q board, and it became a big, reason for obsession for people. That, oh my God, Q really knows stuff, right?
Sure.
So this is what it is, the occult owl thing, and keep going some more. The logo represents the numerous persons whom have security clearances that will boggle your mind and makes the mafia look like a Sunday school class. Foreign spies just love it. However, this is a secret site of the cult Church of Scientology that is using a symbolic message. Symbolism will be their downfall. It starts from there. To communicate with the spirit of their late founder, L. Ron Hubbard, they marked out a landing zone somewhere in the USA when Hubbard returns to the Earth plane. Ted Gunderson told me directly that this cult has a better intelligence org than the CIA. Okay. So then he puts this map out. And he gives those markers there, West Hollywood and Crestline, Lake Arrowhead, and San Jacinto or something like that. And then go down some more. The map points to this Bilderberg group, or no, that's a Bohemian Grove. Okay, yep. So keep going. Now you see this particular document. Yep. Expand that a little. This is Gunderson's intel, according to people. So if you read that, the attack on the Alfred P. Murrah building.
Wow, this is hard to read.
Yeah, I
But
know. Yeah. So
was
this is where they claim that Michael Reconnaissance barometric bomb was used to bring down those buildings. And Saddam Hussein was trained by the CIA. Hussein was in power in Iraq by the CIA under George Bush. So all these things they claimed these all made into the Q board in various drops and things. They always put some snippets of it, right? Like Socratic way. Okay, move on.
So what you're kind of trying to show here is some of the similar information that ended up on Q is also on here, and therefore there's some ties.
Yes, that's correct.
These
now
people.
Look at this one. Who are the players on this one? David Icke, Anthony Hilder,
and and Gunderson and Maxwell all on this one thing, huh?
And around that same time, I think the people who were organizing these seminars were also having people like Walter Bosley on there or Bosley on their seminars.
Right.
Same people. Right.
Some people, I think you accidentally called him Martin Bosley.
Martin, because I was in my mind thinking about Sarah Carter's husband or ex-husband, Martin Bailey, because there was
Walter Bosley. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, the NIMSA guy. He's quite authentic and he's quite accurate in his information. I don't think he's involved with these kind of people. Right. But there is some similarity in his information, the others, like Gunderson and others. That's all.
Gotcha.
Okay, move on.
Perfect. All right.
So this is one luncheon from 1957. So this is before CIA became CIA. It was OSS before, right? Or the old boys network.
And I covered this in the Nathan Reynolds and Gray information on Stanley McChrystal and Flynn, that the OSS Knights of Malta being their handlers or where their allegiance is to.
Cool. Go on. Move on.
Perfect.
Next part. Yeah, this is very important. So this is the yellow brick road thing.
Yeah.
You will always hear them from black rap artists or R&B soul music people and all that nonsense.
Yes.
Even in MJ's, things so Jay-Z or Kanye. And then you see extraterrestrial highway.
Yeah.
And if you read through that, the COM12 thing comes in there, Area 51. So the alleged story is that Michael Reconnaissance had the key codes or the encryption codes to bring down 6 or 7 helicopters, which were flying away from Groom Lake or Area 51, which he did on the orders of the people who were working there. So he had that kind of control over technology, that he could bring down missiles. He could, guided missiles being diverted into the ocean, or, they go into a different target because he used encryption codes. And that's the idea that Q board was giving initially, that Q could actually do that level of things. Okay. There are some posts about helicopter crashes where Q would come back and say, this is not a game. They are trying to kill our operators. People's lives are in danger and blah, blah, blah. And then boom, some helicopter crash will happen, or some standard hotel raid will happen in Hollywood. And they will go after Adam Schiff, claiming that he's involved in pedophilia and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And Corsi went on and on about that little thing, Liddle. There was a guy who really had a last name named Little, and he was somehow involved in nefarious things, maybe. But Corsi was kind of making all kinds of concocted theories, into practical realities. That Schiff was involved with the Little group, which was involved with Anthony Scalia's death in a boys' club somewhere, and he was found with a fish in his bed. What nonsense, I don't know how.
Scalia that allegedly had a fish in his bed?
Who knows? Nobody knows.
But there's one thing interesting about Schiff and those guys that are connected to Ed Buck.
Correct.
That guy did go down.
Yeah, that's true. And I know about the Chateau de Marymount Hotel because I've been there many times.
Where it gets into the show. What do you know about that?
Yeah, because I've been to some meetings with people who work at WME, which is William Morris Endeavor, not Ari Emanuel, but somebody lower than him. I've
Wow.
met some people there, and that hotel belongs to Uma Thurman and her boyfriend.
Wow. Uma
And
Thurman. Okay.
yeah, so I have been there. All these Hollywood things are in some way real, some way not real, but sometimes it's reaching. These people reach too much. But
Yeah, well,
anyway,
some of this stuff's been sensationalized because when COVID first went down, Tom Hanks was in Australia, so there was talk about how he had been executed and his wife Rita Wilson.
oh my God.
And now you see him in so many different movies and so many different. Like for a while there, people were like, "Oh, it's his brother." Oh, they're using it with CGI, and I'm like, every single person on the movie set is pretending like this guy is actually still alive, and he's not. Like, there's so many things that I think that they've done on
It's so
purpose.
ridiculous. I
You
know.
got Liz Crokin, who's another, I think, just fraud gatekeeper of the truth, always pointing out how Tom Hanks has never posted again since I think the Corona post on his Instagram. And I think it's all like on purpose to make people crazy and not know what's true, but they start
Yeah.
following all this stuff like you're talking about here. And it's like they do that in order to muddy the waters till you actually know knowing the truth. But so many people are so set on that Tom Hanks is dead, Rita Wilson's dead. All we see is CGI and holograms. It's his brother playing him, and like ideas like that made this
It's
so
mind-boggling.
crazy.
I know.
It's
Crazy.
insanity to me. We're trying to figure out what is true and what's not, and what's true about the Q board, and what these guys are talking about correlates to a lot of the things that was being shared on the boards. And I've got people that are like still. Like, look, I was saying before I met you, before I got into more of this stuff, that there was a good aspect to Q because it woke up patriots and it ignited people to start questioning things and push back on the satanic agendas and stuff like that. But at the same time, we're like at least having the discussion that it could have just been flawed humans all the time. I shared a post with you right before we went on here. We can get into later at a different time, but it was Crash Stacy on X showing that it's illegal for the military to run psyops on the American people. So you can't even say that Q was a positive psyop because it would be, even if it was intended and positive, if it was actually military, it would be illegal.
Okay.
So the military that's good would never do that.
No, pause there for a second. For instance, say, let's look at from their view, right? Their point of view. The claim was that President-elect Trump met with Devin Nunes and Admiral Rogers privately at his Trump Tower because they were going to impeach him as soon as he became president on the premise and promise and pretext that somebody from his Trump Tower was talking to an alpha bank in Russia. Okay. So they were spying on his campaign from the word go in the name of Oppo research. And for that, they went 7 times over and over to get the same 702 FISA court approval, based on which now they are saying that Tulsi Gabbard cannot be confirmed if they revoke and remove that 702 clause from the FISA court. It's very important. So if you consider that angle, President-elect Trump did not have enough clearance at that time to accord a Q clearance to somebody, because the Q clearance always comes from the Secretary of Energy. It's at the time when there is a nuclear disaster or a nuclear missile coming towards our country, or some allies have gone rogue. Something like that has happened with NATO, right? And there is an anti-missile system in Poland and other places to protect us from other countries like China and Russia. So at that time, Q clearance is, brought forth. And if suppose such a thing happened, right? And there was a real person who had military background, definitely that person has to have had some kind of a Zakowski from the Lost Circle book. Peter Zakowski, you can look him up afterwards. He was a real Marine who was a submarine commander or a captain in this submarine, which is the highest ranking officer in the Navy on any submarine. That level of person can have a Q clearance, not Michael Riconosciuto, because Michael Riconosciuto never served in the military. He could have had Q clearance for having worked as a computer expert or technological person on Groom Lake or Area 51 or the so-called Nellis Air Base and nuclear power plants. That's possible. But when they said that this Q person was posting intel on a 4chan board. The only reason, the valid reason they gave was because the president-elect Trump, or president then at that time in October of 2017, wanted to bypass the mainstream media smokes and mirrors to
Yes.
give out information to you, the people, directly. That was their selling point. It was a big hook. And there were lots of Marines, there were lots of Green Berets after the Las Vegas shootout who got involved into that, and they started seeing those things. There was one particular Marine guy who was posting on YouTube after he had, left the army or the military, that whatever I'm seeing in this person's posts, they are very real. They look very dangerous. I don't know how he's getting this information, but it's terrifying me. It was a real Marine guy telling that. And he was not hiding his face or anything just like us, or I'm doing it right now. He was openly on YouTube and he was saying it. This is mind-boggling stuff. How does this guy have information about Rod Rosenstein getting fired, or Sessions getting fired, or 53-47 Senate victory, or Perkins Coie, or Sidley Austin,
Sure.
company and stuff? All those things legitimize Qs. I have to give credit to those people also. We cannot be naive or blind and say that it did nothing good for the people. Like some people in our group also believe that Q gave them lots of good information. It
Yes.
woke them up. I mean, it woke people up who were not actually, woke before, or they were only sleeping. But you cannot wake up people who are pretending to be asleep. That's also there. So there are lots of people who are pretending they were asleep before or are still asleep now. They know stuff because everything that Q was posting was actually from the public domain. There's nothing hidden. If you do more research, you could find out everything about that. But it was mind-boggling to people who were not well informed about how the Saudi regime controls the British regime, how the British regime controls the US government. People didn't have all that knowledge. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're not saying anything. We're saying that there's some positive things, obviously, that came from Q. But what people should start realizing is that it's not 10 people that includes Trump as Q plus that are working behind the scenes as a Q alliance to work with taking down the satanic. Some of the things that have been put out there about what it really is we're challenging that as to whether or not any of that's true. And I'm saying it's not. It wouldn't even be legal, and Trump certainly wouldn't be involved in that, in the sense that it's like Crash is pointing out.
The only place or time when even I had to take a pause about maybe there is 1% chance that yes, there is a connection between all these things. Maybe Trump is somehow, he has given his okay, maybe. I'm not saying I know anything incontrovertible, right?
Sure.
The incontrovertible part could have happened. Why was Trump allowed to go and place the wreaths on those dead soldiers' grave sites in Arlington Cemetery when he was not the active CIC? Because according to Army laws, that's not allowed. And
when was
Army
that?
did recently, last year, before
last
the
year.
election.
During what they're calling the pause.
Correct. So those families he brought along, and he was allowed to go there and place.
Are you allowed to do it because you're always technically a president once you've been president? You're always, even if he's not president, you can call him President Trump?
Because he did not concede their contention. They are saying that it was all in dispute. So Biden is anyway illegitimate. Kamala is also illegitimate. So whatever they do in the span of 2020 to 2024, like our own Joe Rambo and others claim that there was a pause. Trump always told us that there is a pause between 2020 and 2024. But he continued to be CIC, working out of Mar-a-Lago. So yesterday there was a lockdown at Mar-a-Lago. And because of which people are saying that maybe Trump is going to get inaugurated from Mar-a-Lago and not from DC. Because there is a threat assessment going on. Maybe his security personnel have told him that it's better we don't do it from there, because there was foreign power involved in the inaugural ceremony of Biden. That's why they had to cordon off the entire DC area. And even the National Guards had, turned their faces away to the other side when Biden's Motorcade came along, for the inaugural ceremony. So all these conjecturing, all these things are on the fringe of yes and no, or maybe perhaps. We don't know that for sure.
Yeah,
But
well, we've looked into some of that stuff. So when the soldiers had their backs turned to Biden, it was before the inauguration.
right.
So that one's been mistimed and put out there as if they never acknowledged him as commander in chief, because after the inauguration, he drove in the motorcade, and they all were like facing him and paying their respects to the new commander in chief.
Right. So why I even wanted to address this part is I am not saying that everything about Q was bad.
Yes.
That would be wrong to say that, because even I got sucked into it. I went
Sure.
around asking my real military people with whom I work for, projects that we work, here. And some of them straight out called it a LARP. But there were others who were not, these kind of military, but they were Homeland and ICE kind of people who said, no, there is some truth in this. But why are you looking at it? You're not supposed to look at it. I said, this is all over the place. What do I do about it? It's on social media, it's on YouTube, it's everywhere. So that's why I gave a little bit of benefit of doubt to the original Steinbart Q only. But there was some reality there. The moment
and there was a hope to inspire.
Correct. So the awakening, I understand. Even the hidden hand guy with West Penray tried to bring people to some kind of awareness that there is a superior elite, and they are not from here. They are from extraterrestrial, lineage and blah, blah, blah. Like David Icke says about the reptilians and stuff. I don't believe in the reptilian nonsense. All of us have a reptilian brain or all that blah, blah, blah. But we don't belong to another race than human race. Because in the Indian mythology also, there are 10 avatars of Vishnu. One of them was reptiles. One of them was amphibians. One was half human, half, beast. So something like that. It's a chronological evolutionary theory, just like Charles Darwin's theory. I believe in that part. Okay, probably there's some truth there. We don't know the entirety of it, right?
Interesting.
Anyway, let's go on.
We could go into so many, like I've gotten into the evolution stuff when I got into my faith and whatnot. I think that Charles Darwin was talking more about what is called adaptation, not evolution, not one thing turning into a new thing kind of a thing.
Brilliant. Very well said.
But we could go into a bunch of stuff. But then the reptilian thing, what do you, not that we're going to talk about it, maybe just briefly, have you gotten into the Sumerian tablets, Enlil and Enki and those discussions?
At that time, probably in 2002 and 2003, when I was on campus, so I was also teaching and studying my master's, double master's degrees. So at that time, I got into that Zachariah Sitchin kind of stuff. So that was my only brief introduction into it. But I have a cousin in Canada who is deep into all that. He's the one who brought the Donald Marshall story to me. The Will Society cloning centers and blah, blah, blah. So I believe it on one side. I would say, no, I have studied a little bit of DNA science and all those things because of my research dissertation included musical vibrations and DNA patterns and how music does change RNA, because consciousness controls both DNA and RNA. There is Supreme God, which every religion says the same thing. There is a Supreme God, right? But under God, there is a hierarchical parliament system, like the seven stars or the Pleiades on one side, or we call the Sapta Rishis in the East or India. Then comes the DNA and RNA. But even before DNA and RNA, there is energy, there is consciousness. Consciousness is not energy, but energy is not consciousness, but they are interchangeable because they are interconnected somehow. That's where life happens.
Right.
So if there is consciousness over and above DNA and RNA, these idiots like Bill Gates and Soros and others cannot actually tamper with DNA unless the spirit allows it. This came from a scientist. I was sitting down in San Diego with an applied gene technology scientist who made vaccines for polio and malaria to help in people in Southeast Asia, especially in Nepal and India. And he sat down with me for a night's discussion about all these things. And he said, you seem to be very intelligent, but I'm telling you one thing. I believe as a scientist that the cloning never succeeded. The polys and the dollies and the mollies, that the sheep and all those things that the Korean doctor was doing, he later claimed and he confessed that he was lying. It never happened. And he said that there is within the scientific convention a belief and a faith that we cannot tamper with certain things because we don't recognize the spirit yet.
Yes, I've heard those arguments too, where God has placed boundaries on what is capable. So the idea of actually being able to clone humans isn't actually possible because of a block there. That even goes to the looking glass. Not that I want to get back into that, but say it's a supercomputer that can predict things. There are still blocks because God will not allow it, because then it would take away from free will. It would allow them to manipulate humans too much. Same thing with the genetic manipulation that God has put blockers in, so you're not allowed to do that. However, we might be consenting without our full knowledge. They might be tricking us, and there might be playing with a loophole, if you will. Not that God allows loopholes, but I don't know. That's some of the argument in those areas.
Okay, so move on with that block site for a couple more points, and then we will move to the next part.
Okay, I'm gonna key real quick, JR, and I'll pull that website up. Can we do like this into the bullet point one as its own separate thing? Stop that one and then do one up and do another one.
Okay, all right.